accused of shooting and killing his girlfriend and lying to police. And Christina, police say he told them she committed suicide.
Monty, police are saying it's been years since they've experienced a domestic case that resulted in a homicide in the small Kings County city. Now, instead of donations, the family's asking for tips that can help bring justice to their family.
We would have never expected this to happen to Marilu because she was just so strong.
Well, this week, a Corcoran correctional officer is behind bars instead of guarding the bars, as he's been accused of shooting and killing his girlfriend and trying to play it off like a suicide. Police responded to 34-year-old Luis Antonio Pulido Esparza's 911 call about the suicide on Evergreen Drive around 7 a.m. on Sunday. He said that his girlfriend, 32-year-old Marilu Olmedo, had shot herself and was not breathing. When officers got there, they found Marilu dead from a gunshot wound to the head. Esparza told law enforcement that they had had an argument the night before, and he woke up Sunday morning to the sound of gunfire.
Originally, he said that she had committed suicide and he thought it stemmed from an argument they had the night before.
Detectives served a search warrant at the residence and collected additional evidence. Based on that evidence and interviews conducted and other information gathered, they ended up arresting Esparza for Marilu's murder.
We were in shock. We wanted to know, what happened, who did it, what was the motive, because Marilu being shot, we were like, no, this there had to be more to the story.
We discovered in that process that it was in fact not a suicide, that Esparza was responsible for the homicide of that individual.
Police say that they recovered the firearm that they believe was used in her shooting death, and it is actually legally registered and owned by Marilu. And I believe it was last week somebody had commented on one of my videos that they are surprised that more women don't carry weapons or know how to defend themselves in other ways. But we had this really short conversation about, yes, weapons can be helpful. A firearm a lot of times can change the course of the situation if you know how to use it and are willing to use it when it comes down to it. If you are not trained with it and willing to use it, then it can be turned against you, and that can be worse. You can be providing, as in this case, the murder weapon that's used against you. So, while I am an advocate for women arming themselves and getting some kind of self-defense training and all of that, there is mental work that needs to be done because most of us don't have it in us just naturally to hurt another person. If we did, we probably wouldn't be getting hurt in the first place. So keep that in mind. Esparza was booked into Kings County Jail on Monday morning under suspicion of murder. He's since been charged with first-degree murder and felony child abuse.
The suspect was officially charged today with first-degree murder and felony child abuse. That's because investigators say those children were at the home at the time of the shooting.
And there was also a report of special allegations for use of a firearm. I didn't see that later. I'm not sure what that was, but there may also be some type of a charge around that, depending on what this guy's history was, and maybe even because he's a correctional officer and so he's trusted with a certain amount of responsibility with a firearm, using it in an illegal way to commit harm might be enough for them to charge him something separately for that, but I don't know that for sure. If convicted on the counts that he has, he could face life in prison. And at last that I saw, he was ordered no bail.
Really unusual crime for this small community, particularly one that would involve domestic violence. It's kind of shocking for a small community.
She was a teen mom, but that never stopped her. I think part of it was having support from family, but then the other part of it was her drive to do good for her kids.
Family members say that Marilu met him at work at the Corcoran State Prison in prison training. That hits close to home because I met my ex-husband in prison training as well. The CDCR said that Esparza is a correctional officer at the Substance Abuse Treatment Facility and State Prison in Corcoran as a clinic and security patrol relief officer. He's been a correctional officer for 8 years.
And she worked in the Integrated Substance Use Disorder Treatment Program,
providing services in integrated substance use disorder treatment program for the last 10 years.
She worked her way up from starting off in working in a group home to working at a state prison. She always wanted to achieve more for her kids.
The two had been dating for about 5 years and had a 2-year-old daughter together. Ramirez also had 2 older boys from a previous relationship, ages 11 and 16. Police say all 3 children were home at the time of the shooting.
Oscar Maldonado, a close friend of Marilu's for the last 8 years and a co-worker of Esparza's for the last 4 years, said that he had noticed that there were problems in their relationship. There was some problems he told me about too, but it was behind the scenes stuff. There's been problems with them in the past, he said. Family said that their relationship had been on again, off again, and that Marilu was focusing on co-parenting with him. So I'm not sure 100% if they were actually together right now, if this was an on time or an off time.
Officials say they don't have any record of previous domestic violence between the two.
Police say that they don't have any record of domestic violence from these two. The family refused to be on camera or give their names when they were communicating with the press because they were concerned for their safety.
Ramirez's family members did not want to go on camera or be identified Tuesday for safety reasons, but said she was a hardworking mom who adored her children.
Which tells me that there was concern for things going on. I mean, obviously they have reason to be concerned because he killed her. And he's in a type of law enforcement or corrections where that's kind of known as a boys' club. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago. It could just be that, but I would venture to say that there was more, that there was red flags that they were aware of that the public just doesn't know about. I actually reached out to one of her cousins who had talked on Facebook about wanting to bring justice to her cousin and wanting people to know about the story because I was curious if there were red flags that she had seen or they had seen that she could confirm with me, and I haven't heard back from them and I want to get this out. So at the end of this section, I'm just going to list for you some intimate partner homicide red flags. And then if her family or friends wants to comment on it and say which ones they specifically saw in her relationship, that would be great. The more that we can teach people, hopefully the more lives that we can save. One family member told reporters he was capable of killing his daughter's mother right in front of her. Who knows what he could do? Family members say that her
kids will now be without her as a role model, and the family has lost an independent woman who was silly and sometimes sarcastic.
Police say Child Protective Services will work with the family to make sure that the children have a home, especially the 2-year-old daughter who now doesn't have either of her parents. So I worked today on putting books into boxes after signing them, and I'm going to send them out to some different places. If there is a high school or a college or a women's shelter or a jail that you think that this ought to go to, will you email me or comment below the address and or name that you want this to go to, including if there's individual people that you believe that this would benefit. I wrote this book called In Case I'm Murdered. So the last part of March, I'm going to be sending some of these out. I'm going to do it free of charge for the next week or two, depending on how many people respond. On page 64 out of that book, 64 and 65, is intimate partner homicide red flags, 24 of them. We're going to go through these really quickly. Do you feel like you might be in danger with him? That's the #1 red flag. Was he abused or did he witness abuse as a child? Does he believe that the rules or laws don't apply to him? Does he believe that he's smarter or more clever than most people? Does he have a criminal record of violence towards people or destruction of property? Does he have a drug or alcohol addiction? Does he use drugs or alcohol to excuse violent behavior? Is he controlling? Does he disrespect boundaries, peoples, or places, which includes trespassing as a criminal history or even something he hasn't been caught for? Does he break things when he's angry? Does he use intimidating behavior when he's angry, like slamming doors or hitting walls? Does he physically abuse you? Does he minimize it, tell you that it wasn't as bad as you say it was, etc.? Has he been violent towards animals or children? Does he use threats to control you? These could be threats about hurting you, your children, pets, or himself. Did he want to get together, move in, get married, or have babies really fast, like within the first couple of months? Was he violent towards previous intimate partners? Does he say things like "till death do us part" or "ride or die" in reference to your relationship? Does he seem to get a lot of his identity from being with you? Has he stalked you, himself, or through other people or devices? Does he believe that acts of violence done by other people are justified? Does he blame others for everything, or doesn't want to take responsibility for anything, or may even believe that the world is conspiring against him? Does he refuse to accept rejection? And have you ever made plans in case you were murdered? This might be as elaborate as planning your funeral, or as minor as just writing a note. Maybe you took out life insurance. The point is, the fact that your life is in danger is on your radar. Those are 24 intimate partner homicide red flags that you absolutely should know and be looking out for. And if you are aware of any of them in your relationship or in the relationship of somebody that you know, the more that there are, the more danger that you or they are in. And you need to create a safety plan. You need to reach out for help.
If you are the victim of domestic abuse or know someone who is, you can call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at this number, 800-799-7233.
Get a hold of them. They can help you through a safety plan. If you buy the book, then it comes with a safety plan online that you can print out. You can also just get a hold of me and I will give you a safety plan template that you can fill out. Just email me. It's super important. Like life or death kind of important. The more of these that you see, the more in danger you are. And it's a book written for females. And the most common perpetrators at this point statistically are males. So that's why it's worded that way. It would be accurate for anybody. Like there are definitely some females that are hunting men instead of the other way around. It's just worded because that's the most common.
I don't want her to be remembered as the person who was murdered in her home in front of her kids by a correctional officer. I want her to be remembered as a strong person that she was.
There's no one, I feel like no one can replace her. No one can replace her.
Next week, it's my plan to do a live. I haven't decided yet what the topic is going to be. I'm kind of waiting for a little bit of feedback. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, I'll just come up with something on my own. I am feeling better and I feel like I've got my schedule a little bit more under control now. So I'm going to try really hard to put stuff out on Tuesdays, at least like the main videos. And then we're going to work on doing some other news stuff. Right now, we're kind of working with playing with shorts for news stuff. So they're different. Let me know what you think about that too. I'm interested because we're just trying to show people that there's a lot more of this that happens than what I cover, but I don't have time to go in depth into every single person's story. And it's really bothering me because there's a whole bunch of them that happen overseas that I see all of the time too. And I have no idea how to pronounce their names, and they don't have the same kind of news stuff that we do here, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be recognized. So I feel like maybe if I can do screenshots of their written news articles with some music behind it and do it as a short, people can pause it and read that, and at least that it's giving them something. There's an acknowledgement to what they suffered. That's my hope. We might try it a couple of times and you can tell me what you think. I don't know. Sometimes it seems like a really, really, really overwhelmingly daunting task, but I am so grateful for your comments and your views. You guys keep me encouraged. Thank you. Thank you for caring. Truly. Until I see you again, please stay safe.
He made it seem like a suicide. So at some point he called 911 and he says that she shot herself. We were expecting him to be handcuffed.